All right. I believe that we are live. A minute early. We'll give everybody a minute to get settled, sit down, and get in there. Let's make sure it's broadcasting here. I believe that we are live. Cool. I guess we are. Can turn the sound down. Sit down. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Good morning. I think we're going to go with Sagebrush Sketchers or Senior Sagebrush Sketchers or something like that. Haven't decided yet, but we're here again. Let's see, is it time to start? Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. And Sherry's on, of course. Excuse me. It's 9 o'clock here. Hopefully it's 10 o'clock somewhere in the world. Hmm. Tea, that's my second cup. We stayed up late last night. I'm waiting to see if Raymond G is in there. Is Raymond G able to sign on at all? We'll give it a few more minutes. Get everybody in. Ah, there's Raymond G. Good morning, Sharp. And good morning to whoever's there. Today, I don't know, did I get it in the thumbnail? I think I did. Today we're going to do this one. Whoops, let me get you a picture here. You're just looking at me. That can't be that fun. Uh, I'll get this sized up so you can see. And oh, there. Here's in the sketchbook. Yeah, there it is. This is Hawk Tower. Some of you who may have read poetry may know of Hawk Tower, or if you just read books, or if you, I imagine, if you live on the coast. Maryland, is this one of the things that you've done on the coast? This is a little further down than where we are now. This was a week ago. Just slightly over a week ago. Hawk Tower is part of Courthouse. Robinson Jeffers, the poet, lived there, and he built Hawk Tower for his wife Una. And this is in Carmel by the Sea. So hopefully you were able to print out. I hope that I think Sherry was telling me I sent that pattern a little goofy, so I hope you were able to print it. But if not, I've got it here up in the corner. And I'm going to enlarge this just a little bit. And not that one. Let's don't enlarge that one. Let's enlarge this one. There. So that you have a little bit bigger pattern. If you're going to try to draw it from what's here, it looks kind of complicated, but it's really not too bad. If you, let's see, I can do this with the mouse. Can you see the mouse on your phone there?
If I close the chat. No, wait, let me change this. No.
No mouse wiggling?
No, because there's
okay.
The pictures in front of it.
Okay. So if you give yourself eyeball the distance on the picture, where the distance from here to here on your pattern is this wall is just a little past center to the left, right? I believe to your left. So you want to make that first mark over here and then try and guesstimate or get the distance down to the top of this wall here, the parapet wall. I think it is. And the distance down to the top of Hawk Tower and the distance from the right-hand side of your paper to there. That should help you have some reference to be able to do the drawing. Another way to do it is like this. If you have this square, those of you who can transfer the project and have the stuff to transfer it, you can just go ahead and start transferring it. If you've taped your paper down. Oh, wait. Oop. Did everybody wet their paint? Should start by wetting your paint, right? Good morning, Marilyn and Connie. Thanks for contacting me. You know that uh, these classes are currently free, and you can watch it on your phone if you're ever home. If you send an email to spaderart@gmail.com and request, I'll put you on the list. They won't always be free, but they are right now. Anyway, you can start receiving the email, which gives you the link to the next class. So, one way to do Hawk Tower, to draw it, is if you look at this main part right here, it's really easy. If you just put a box in here, I'm just going to draw a box that's in about the right location. From that box, you can just start carving out pieces. You could say that back here is the little part that sticks up. And let's see, here is the main part of the tower. And that comes down just a little past the edge, and then this slants down. So my point is you can just carve out pieces of that box and make create your thing. These things should slant just a little bit before they come down these, what are these called? Buttresses? No, I don't know. Should know, I used to know, but I don't know today. This wall has a little piece in it. And this wall, you have your square here, but it comes down kind of an odd thing like this. It sticks down here. And then off of it, you have this, there's a little gate back here. And this back here, this hole, this gate where this is, you go right out there, and there's a little bit of real estate. I mean, a little bit of real estate, like 10 feet, and you go off a cliff. It's Hawk Tower is high up on the bluff. And then on the trees, I like to put the tree in first, like this, in front here. And the tree up on top, you can just put some shape in there. It doesn't have to be exactly mine. Mine is not totally literal to what is there. It's a representation. because what we really do is called urban sketching, right? Sketching on location, and you just try and capture the essence of the moment. And then this branch goes behind the tree in the house, right? I hope that helps. There's a little teeny piece of a fence down here. And then the rest of this is just some foliage. Did I already say, did Connie make it in there? If so, tell her to settle down. Hmm?
You froze. I'm minding you.
Can you still hear me? Turn your sound up. Can you still hear me?
It's frozen. Let me just see if I can fix it. Could be my end. I don't think I'm hooked up for this.
Hang on, we think we're frozen here.
No, mine is, hang on a minute.
Michael Spader,
Just go ahead with your thing.
did it come on? 7.
I have the internet up, but it's not.
7-17. 7-17. Yep, it's on.
Don't worry about mine, just 'cause
7 dash. Yep. Sorry about that, guys. We thought we might have gone off the air there for a moment. Or folks, how we coming with the drawing? Everybody who's getting close to done, raise your hand. Close to finished with the drawing. Yes, if you're in a class, or if you sign on individually, you might be able to get in the chat. I don't know if that helps you in the future or not. I know that some of you may want to comment online. I'll keep rambling while you giving you a chance to get the drawing transferred. Another way you can do it, these videos I've left up at YouTube, on YouTube. If you go to Michael Spader, and then, for instance, this video will be up when we're finished. If you go to Michael Spader 7-17, you can rewatch this video in the future, and you can leave comments down below on the YouTube channel. It's very different doing this just broadcasting because when I'm in class there, uh, you folks speak up and it creates a dialogue. I'm just here by myself with no dialogue. Well, I'm not by myself. Sherry's right next to me. She's over there sketching away.
You haven't been by yourself for 2 months. Poor thing.
True. Sherry was saying that haven't been home for or by myself for quite a while, as um, we've been on the road for a couple of months, and so she, I, and the dog. See, okay, here is. Uh, I'll put this up there. I think it's in the right place. Let's see. Here's a picture of the. That's the actual drawing that's in that I did in my sketchbook. I don't know if that helps anybody or not. Looks like the corner of it's kind of cut off there. All right. So I don't really, I don't have too many dad jokes today, but let's see. This comes from Doc Talk. They're little shorts on YouTube. Says, I bought a sweater and it kept having static electricity on it. You know, it kept giving me static electricity, so I returned it. And they gave me a new one free of charge. Free of charge. So funny. Are you getting about ready?
C sharp says they're almost done a little bit ago.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Shall we paint? Everybody getting about ready? This was interesting. This was fun for Sherry and I. And the fun part was we went over there on a wing and a prayer. So I'm gonna go ahead and shrink this down just a little bit so you can see my paint. And thank you, Camila, for letting me know. Right there. Let's do this. There we go. So this, once again, we're going to go ahead and do the sky. And because the trees are pretty dark up here and the bushes are pretty dark, you can go ahead and do the sky right through there, but try and not do the sky through the tree. Does that make sense? I'm going to put sky all around, and I'm going to go ahead and go right through where the bushes are, but I'm not going to put sky on where the tree is drawn, nor where the building is drawn. And the sky, actually, I think it was a little bit of a hazy day there, but I'm just going to go with some ultramarine and a little bit of the mess that's in my palette here. You can add just a touch of one of the either the burnt umber or burnt sienna, just a touch to kind of neutralize it so it's slightly gray. And my board, I don't know if you have the ability or not, but my board, this little plastic thing, is leaning up on top of the laptop. So I'm at about a 10-degree angle, which makes it a little bit easier for me to just put a sky all the way across the painting there. Oh, I'm hitting the tree, so I'm not supposed to do that. But you can hit the bushes, the branches. And remember, as you come down, to try and keep a wet edge on the bottom. I'm going to come all the way down kind of into the top of this bush. And I'm not worrying about the sky too much. It's in the background. I'm propping my hand. I wish you could see this. I don't see my hand right here. I'm putting my hand like this. And it makes it a lot easier to get a sharp right along and follow a line. And that way you don't have to do this. A little bit more water in my brush. And then go right along the edge of the tree there. Oops, I missed a spot right there. And don't worry too much when the sky is in the background like this, which sky most generally is. This is very broken sky. So it doesn't have to be smooth or look, it can have some movement in it. So if you're putting a few brush strokes in it, don't be concerned too much if it looks like there's movement in it, because it actually adds just a little bit of interest. And that sky came right down into this little area here. This place, this is called Hawk Tower, and it's part of Poorhouse that Robinson Jeffers hired people, but he built Hawk Tower himself out of rock quarried right there when he and Una bought the property. And when they bought the property, it was around World War One, just after World War One, and what had happened was this used to be a 10-hole golf course there in Carmel, and the gentleman that owned the golf course went back to what is it, Ireland, where golf was invented, to help with the wounded and stuff of the war, and he just deserted the golf course. So eventually it went up for sale, and as I understand it, Una and Jeffers bought 18 plots around them. And you will think that's kind of funny when nowadays you get up there and man, it is so tight, two cars can barely pass in the street. Uh, so I don't know what happened to all those plots that he bought around him, but they're not there now. There are houses on every side, every inch of that expensive ground is covered. That is some expensive real estate over there. fun part about this tower is there's a little passage. Sherry went up the inside passage if you ever go there. I went up the outside passage and we met at the top. She has a little more bravado, I guess you'd say, in small spaces. It looked a little too cramped for me. It was like, oh my God, that's a small space. And so I went up the outside stairs. But yeah, you notice I didn't draw in all the little bricks. And you'll also notice in the painting there that not all the bricks are painted. You not only make yourself crazy trying to when you're doing a brick wall or a block wall or anything like that. Uh, it's a lot of work, but it also makes the painting less interesting when you can put just a few of the blocks in there and indicate that it's a block wall, or in this case, rock. These are big, huge pieces of rock that he used. I don't know how they lifted them up there. And uh, you can indicate that, and the human mind will just assume that it's a piece, that it's a wall. Give me another moment or two because I tend to go way too fast on these things. Too quickly. We had a busy morning. Man, the location here is just beautiful where we're at. Marilyn, I'm anxious to hear more about your time here. You said you were in the San Francisco area about 10 years. This is just we've done some fun things here, but I won't have the sketches ready for you or the patterns ready for another week or two. Next week we will be up in Oregon and we're visiting family, so or they're coming down to visit us. We're camping. And I'm sure I won't get as much done, but we have some great locations here and done a bunch of fun things. Whale watching with binoculars, watching the whales off the coast. Evenings with beautiful sunsets. And where we're camped, we're only mm, maybe 75 yards, no, maybe less. 75 yards from the actual water, from the cliff that goes down to the water. Yep. Okay. Now I'm gonna let the sky dry. I don't want to mess with it, or we're not going to do anything in the house or the tree or the branches for a few minutes and let the sky dry up. So down along the bottom, you can see at the very bottom here, if you're looking at the picture, I'll put the big picture here so I can show you. See this? This is just we're going to just put like a dirt color in here. Just gonna kind of put a swash in here of dirt color, and then some of the branches can go over it, the leaves can go over it when we get to that. Okay? So that's what we're going to work on now is put it in that walking path. I hope that some of you get to go there. This is a lovely location. I'm just going to use that yellow's a little bright there. So I've got just a little yellow. There was some burnt, I think that's burnt sienna left on my palette, and I've got some yellow ochre. So what I'm going to do is do it to where there's a few different colors in it. I'm going to start off with a little bit of cadmium yellow mixed with yellow with burnt sienna. Then I'm going to come and get just a dab of yellow ochre. And I hope you folks can see this. We're still fighting a lighting issue. Oh, by the way, either in the comments now or after the program, if you'd let me know how much trouble I have. The front door to the camper is open. I'm putting a little more yellow ochre in there, just trying to give some movement, and now a little less, and just trying to give that area some movement. You can, if you want, you can. I'm dampening my brush, touching it off on my rag, on my Carhartt rag there. I give Carhartt a lot of advertisement for rags, huh? And just kind of lightening it up as it comes back into, disappears, just let it fade away with wet. You can do that on the side if you want. It's up to you. Kind of lighten it up a little bit in areas, because we're going to cover all that with shrubbery. Yes, please, somebody let me know either now or in the later. Um, if the road noise, how much road noise you're suffering through. I apologize for that, but we're having a real issue with getting the right amount of light on the paper without too severe of shadows. In this small space, it's hard to light it correctly. And sadly, our camp, the spot that we have at the campground is right very near the road. As you can see, morning traffic is still going, shooting by. All right, how's your paper? Is it drying up a little bit? Is your sky getting dry? Let's try some of these bushes, like maybe this one. See this bush that's right in here? That would be, I'm kind of looking at, let's go ahead and, well, let's do this one. See that I've got a little light one in here, right there. So, and that one's not touching any sky. It's touching some of this yellow down here, but I think that might not be too bad of a problem. For that light color, I'm going to take ultramarine blue and mix it with a little lemon yellow. And you get a pretty nice light green. And I'm just going to go into that area and put the light thing moving around. You can come in with lighter, with some, little bits of the lighter color here and there. It's just to give it some. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, mine may not look quite like yours because I just freehand drew this. So you probably have the rest of the tree coming down here, a tree trunk coming down here. You don't have to cover the tree trunk if you don't want to. I'm just basically putting in another little bit of a background with this color. And while that one's drying, You can kind of mix them. That's a whole technique, but I prefer to do that. I may do some of that in the future, but I prefer to do it when I'm with people and I can see what they're doing, so I can show them. It's a little touchy, a little iffy about how wet this can be when you do it. So I'm going to come over here, and there's some bushes in this area. And what I'm going to do, they're kind of bluish, so I'm just going to add a little bit more ultramarine blue to that light color I just made. Just throw a little bit of something. See these little sky holes there? Only they're dirt holes. I'm going to leave a few of those in there just to put a little something there. The tower itself, this one's kind of a worry because it's still damp. So we're going to be careful with that. You want to feel your sky, see that it's dry to the touch. Can still be a little buckled, but you don't want any real damp areas because the paint will slip over into it. The tower itself, this whole area here, before we go putting in the little rocks, we're going to put a background color in there. And it's kind of, I don't know, kind of a gray. And it's a little, it depends. If you made your sky darker, you want it. Here's the thing. If your sky is darker, or let me start this way. You want the tower to stand out from your sky. So if you made a really dark sky, then you want to make a light base color for the tower. If you made a light sky, then you can make a kind of a dark thing for the base color for the tower. And it's really kind of a gray. The whole thing is kind of gray, I believe. So I'm just going to mix a thin grayish thing here and test it. Oh, that's a little gray and a little too gray for mine. So I'm going to turn it a little warmer. I'm putting in a little bit more burnt umber in there and test that one. Still a little too dark. So I'll put a little burnt sienna in it.
Which one's burnt sienna?
Burnt sienna is the lighter of the two browns. And then you don't have to make it all either. You don't have to make it a solid one color. And mine, I'm making mine actually a little darker than I want it to, so I think I'm still going to put a lot more water into it. And I'm going to take some of that out of there. I like the lighter is a little better, I think. The original I painted as though the face of the tower was in the sun. And as you go along, you can add or delete a little more one of the browns, so it doesn't have to be perfectly all one perfect color. Another thing you can do, you don't have to, is to kind of sway the edges because it is made out of rock. Mine's looking a little square there on the edges. I'm just going to paint the whole thing. Remember, we're coming back in here with some shadows later. And don't forget to do these. You have a little piece of fence here, which is a rock fence. And a little piece down here, only if your plant is dry. If that bluish plant is dry, you can put some in there. Give you a minute to get that going. Now we went there. Sadly, I like to research these things, but foolishly, I've been wanting to go see this Hawk Tower for at least a year, maybe 2 years. And Robinson Jeffers, here's a picture of a book of his poetry. He was a little bit before the Beat generation. He was back in the 30s and early 40s. Had a great career up until he uh, started. He was against the United States getting into the Second World War, and that really caused him a lot of trouble. And his career took a big dive. His politics hurt his career. Anyway, he's kind of dark if you ever read his poetry, but he has some really nice poems, some really famous poems that are very poignant. The point, getting around to what I was talking about, is I never assumed that the place would have the restrictions that it did on it. It is only open on Saturdays, and it's booked 3 weeks in advance for to take a tour or to even go there. And for instance, you could only take pictures from the front gate, even though if you take the tour as you're going along, you can't take any pictures of the buildings or insides or anything like that. And so we went there thinking, oh, I thought, oh man, what a bummer. I'm not going to be able to take the tour and I won't be able to see it. So we parked out front, and in my mind was this big objective of being able to read a poem at the house so that I could feel what he felt, try and get a sense of what he was writing about and what he felt. So Sherry got out and went to take pictures as much as she could because we thought the place might be closed and we knew it was by appointment only. I'll go on with that story in just a minute. Let's go ahead and look at the tree. While this wall dries a little bit, I think we'll just do these branches of the tree. And these trees are a kind of a gray. They're a gray and they're a light gray, but they're a bluer gray than either the sky or the house. So you want to try and put a little blue in it if you can. If your house is already a blue tower, then that might be a problem. So just put in what you can, but you want the tree to differentiate itself the from the sky and the building because it's not the same. Now that's a little too blue, so I'm going to keep adding a little brown, same thing I did on the tower. I'm going to add a little here, change it up a little bit, you know, not make it all just one. You don't want to just come down with one solid wash of one color. So I keep getting a little bit of something else to mix in it. Just give it a little movement as you work with it. So anyway, we went there and we parked and Sherry got out to take a few pictures and I was going to get out in a minute, but I wanted to be sure that I did the poetry thing. So in the car, I didn't have a copy of his book because I had forgotten it with me of one of his copies of his poetry. So I got on YouTube and listened to a copy of his one poem. It's called "The Pursed Sin." It's about sardine fishing, but more than that, it's about people and life and struggle. Anyway, it's a great poem. If you ever get a chance to read it. And sure enough, then I got out to take some pictures, and Sherry came back and she said, "There's a gift shop there." But we couldn't go in right then because they had a tour going on. So, but one of the ladies that was just about to start a tour came out and said, "Well, we don't know, but right now you have to be quiet because they're doing a tour." We didn't even know if we were going to get to buy a book. So, anyway, uh, is the house drying up at all? Let's go ahead and right inside here, let's do both of these, the windows, the openings. Let's just make a really dark color for that. I'm going to put a lot of ultramarine blue in with some burnt umber. That's the darker of your two browns. You should be able to create something that's close to a black. Oops, I went a little out of the lines there, made mine a little large. Is my front row teacher there? I'm sorry, I can't think the names. So you don't have to have a black, but it should be kind of dark. I'm going to take just a little bit out of it so that there's a little movement in the windows. And there are actually windows, but I think this painting is a little too small to be able to make it happen there. Oh, thank you. Everything sounds good. Terrific. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know, Sharp. Without hitting the windows, I'm going to go ahead and work a little bit while the tree dries up. I'm going to work a little bit on the rocks. So we went there, and I just feel so fortunate. It was just the best time for me. Sherry had a great time, but Robinson Jeffers, there's someone's out there pulling picnic tables together. Apparently, someone's going to have a picnic out there. Um, if on the rocks, we want them to be different colors, just because but not horribly different. You can make a fantasy painting if you want to, but I'm going to start out with just a kind of a light color. Mine is a little yellowish brown. And here's the thing. I'm just going to put one here and a little one there, maybe another one next to it. How about one down the side here? Another one here. I'm just going to go around and occasionally put one of these because we're going to come back with some other rocks in a few minutes, right? So we don't want to cover too much, and you can make them different sizes. So anyway, the end result was two guys, two people didn't, they got stuck in traffic and didn't make it. So of course, Sherry and I jumped on the opportunity to take the tour. We had a wonderful tour of the place. We went up in the tower. It was a very informative tour, even though it's pretty limited. It's compared, there's a lot of information available about Robertson Jeffers if you ever like to. But the highlight of the whole thing was for me was that during the tour, they asked for volunteers to read poetry. And Jeffers has one poem that is a bed by the window. I really like the poem. It's kind of dark, but it's real life. Uh, anyway, I was able to read that poem standing in his bedroom, in near the bed or next to the bed that he died in. And if you ever read the poem, you will understand how significant that is. But for me, that was a real highlight. So I've just kind of made it look like chicken pox all over the place. While that one's drying, I'm going to go back to the greens. And you can see from my sketch that, let's see here. Let's go ahead and make this inside green here. See this one? Now that one's kind of a blue hint to it. Okay. So I'm going to go over here with a little bit of a more of a yellowish, but I want it to differ from this one. So I might put a different yellow. I'm going to put some cad yellow. So you have a very light one, that's lemon yellow in your kit, hopefully. And you have one that's like taxi cab yellow is cadmium yellow. And then you have ultra or yellow ochre is the darker of the yellows. So I'm going to put this one in here with cad yellow mixed with some of that um, ultramarine blue. So it's just something different so they're not the same. Because in truth, we're just indicating this, but in truth, the place had a beautiful garden. There were plants everywhere. And all kinds of different plants, and it was just pretty, just very well kept. It was a really a nice tour. It was a nice thing to do. A nice if you get a chance to get there. But be prepared that you may have to walk. We got lucky and had rock star parking. We got to park right up front. But there's only like three parking spots in front of the house. There's no other parking. I'm taking a big batch of ultramarine blue and I'm going to mix a little bit of the lemon yellow. And I'm going to come back and kind of, so this one's a lot darker. And I'm going to go up here in the top of this tree and leaving some sky holes. You don't have to leave the exact sky holes I put in the pattern. You can make your own. And it helps. See how far back I'm holding my brush? Look at my brush. That way I'm just kind of flicking in the end there and leaving sky holes and you can put little teeny things out here like it had a few leaves loose, untethered or unmanaged leaves like no one combed it this morning. And as you go, you can make it a little more blue, keep changing it up, or a little more yellow, so it's not all exactly the same. Doesn't have to be much of a change. I think I put a little too much blue in there, so I'm going to go back with a little more yellow. Yeah, we leave this location tomorrow where we're at, and it has just been beautiful, man. We've gone to the city several times and seen some historic things that hopefully I can make a class out of for you. I wish I knew what kind of tree this was. There's so many beautiful trees in California that are so different from New Mexico that I would really love to study the different trees. With that, a very similar blue or a very similar green to that, I'm going to go ahead and do these two trees. Remember to go behind the building with this one, behind the tree and behind the building, and in front with this one. One goes behind, one goes in front, just to give it a little interest. And again, I'm going to vary it. I'm going to mix it up a little bit more blue. You can put a dab of the brown in there, one of the two browns, just if you want to make it a little bit different, but they're pretty dark. You don't want it all dark, but you want it to be different from so there's variation and you want it to be a little bit dark so that it's not so that the other things show up. Remember to vary it as you go along making your sky holes. And if you do it on your phone, you can join at any time. The address is just for this one is Michael Spader 7-17. Okay, let's see here. I'm making this one a little bit lighter on top. Because this one's really a bush, kind of a bush thing, but I want it to be dark, a little bit dark. So I'm making this one not quite as dark as I did the tree, but pretty dark.
I'll put this up on the tree. Oops.
It's hard to remember to put that one behind the tree, isn't it? And I'm just going to keep mixing. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little yellow ochre in it, just for the fun to make it a little different. And when it comes down to this, where this green, where I put that green, I'm just going to do some negative painting so that they kind of look like they're on top of each other. I think you guys, right in here, you have a little bit of a different one, so you can paint that part a slightly different color, but still this similar if you left your tree showing there. Mhm. And let's see. I'm gonna let that alone. That's pretty good. While that one's drying, I'm going to mix up a light one. I don't know if you can see it from this original here or in the one that's up in the corner there, but right in here, there's a lighter color and then a darker color. Okay. So the first part I'm going to do is come back. I'm going to come in here with this lighter color, and then after it dries, we'll come back with the darker one. So I'm going to make a kind of a light mix, maybe a little bit of that of your actual your sap green. Carmen, is Carmen there? I'm wondering. Sometime send me some names, and so I'm just kind of loosely making marks in here that kind of look plant-ish, kind of like a plant. And again, if you look how far back I'm holding my brush, I can just flick little leaves in here and there and still leave a little bit of that dirt showing. I might put a little bit of this color right in here because I have some empty space there. And I'll fill this in just so it's got some color in it. And let's see, I'm going to take a little bit more of that sap green because I have an empty space here and just put a few little marks, just some Remember, we're doing this is called representational art, really. Sketching. We don't try to make it exactly what's there. I'm going to put a little bit in here to give this big blob of green some definition that I had done. Or some, maybe a little bit down here. Give it some movement. And maybe just a piece or two over here. Now I've got an empty space here, so I'm going to put some bush in there. It can encroach a little bit onto the sidewalk or the path there.
Did you put those little steps in?
No. So there's this little piece in the front here that I'm going to put rock in here in a minute. But let's go ahead while all of that is drying. Let's go back up here, and I'm going to this time use a color that's maybe a very heavy in the yellow ochre. Let's try that. I'm going to get some yellow ochre here. You put just a brick here and there. Just try to not make any of them. See, this is close to being wrong here. See, we don't want any of them to make like a perfect straight line. We want it to be varied. Even this could be a little bit better. See how these are starting to look like a perfect pattern? It was very random when they do these rocks. They stack these rocks in there. They just go every which way. Okay, now I'm going to put in that. I'm going to take some of the lighter of the two browns. That's your burnt sienna. Mix it with that yellow and make a third color. And I'm going to start by making some of them. Oops, that one blended because I didn't wait till it dried. Come from a different area. Here we go. I'm bringing it from the window now. There you go. And you can make some of them bigger. I'm going to put a bigger one there. Maybe a bigger one here. And on this thing coming down here in real life, it had these big sections of stone that were just like this. Went all the way across. Big piece of stone. And they're like, I don't know, 2 foot wide. I don't know how he lifted all those rocks up there. Now yours, if you actually trace the whole pattern, it may look a little nicer than mine. I may go back because that pencil really adds, having the pencil work around the little bricks really adds a little interest to it. So I may go back myself and do a little bit of that. This roof is kind of a dark gray, but not completely dark gray because down in here was very dark. So we want that very dark to stand out from this. So we're going to just put a little bit of a dark gray in there. And if it's too boring, just dead gray like mine is, I'm going to take a little bit of the material out of one area and maybe a little bit out of here so that it has just a little bit of interest in it. Also, I'm going to bring a lighter gray down on the inside here to let it dry. No Carmen this morning. Darn. Well, tell her I said hi, you guys, if you see her.
Ask who is there?
Yeah. Who is there? Let's see here. Oh, put some rocks over here in the wall. What am I thinking? Gotta have a few rocks in the wall here. I'm gonna take a bit of darkish, not darkish, not real dark, but a little bit darker gray. That's a little bit of ultramarine blue and one of the two browns. I'm not going to make it too dark, but I am going to put a little bit of shadow. This is a little too dark. I'll put a little more moisture in it here, make it a little thinner of material. And I'm going to put kind of a wiggly shadow down the left side here, or the right side, excuse me, of the tree. And right across the bottom there, as though that didn't have any light, just to make some interest. Again, everything we do is just to make so that the eye looks at that area. Eye wants to see something going on. While that's drying, I'm going to take some of that dark blue right down in here, or a dark color. It's not necessarily a dark blue, it's just dark. And you can carve right into this bush if you want with that dark. You can, it's just back there. Actually, that's an entry down there. I never did look in there. We entered from the side over here, this way. I did that a little soon. You can see it's fading into that wall, but that's okay. That wall's should have shadow on it anyway. More than likely, our green over here, you can feel it, see if it's still too damp. If it's just barely damp, this will probably work. You don't want it to run into it. You just want to uh, you want it to lay on top of it. So you might wait another moment or two. I'm going to take some of that sap green and I'm mixing just a touch of ultramarine blue with it. And here we go with my hand propped up again so I can flick. And I used to watch this guy. He did history stuff and like for museums and things. And his name was David Folkenflick. And the funny part is that every time that I say the word flick, ever since then, that was years ago, I still see his face from the history videos I used to watch. And you see how I'm just kind of leaving little spaces in there, some interest, as though the things in the foreground here are darker or in shadow, but there's some you can see through them and see a little something behind them. I'm going to make a little more of that color. That's sap green and ultramarine blue. And again, you don't have to make it all the same value. You can make some a little bluer and some a little greener. And in fact, it's better than if you change it up. You can do this one. Let me get this going here. My brush is a little wet to do this. What I was going to show you. So I'm going to put just a little bit down here. On the original, I had put quite a bit down there. And I'm going to do the same thing here. On the original, I had drawn it with a little more space down here, I think. And maybe just a little bit out here. And a little bit in there. But you can do this with a little bit of a dried brush. You can come back and put very skinny something hanging down, like the leaf got bent and hung down. I have to kind of dance around on these paintings, especially when Sherry and I are urban sketching. Most places you go urban sketching, if you go with the Urban Sketchers group, you have a 2 hour window. And a lot of times part of that window gets eaten up by talking to people when you first get there. And and talking to whoever's near you while you're sketching. So, but you have to do the whole thing in 2 hours. So drawing time is kind of an issue. That's why I dance back and forth. If you were working just in the studio, you can just take a hairdryer and dry it and move on. But when you're out of doors, you have to kind of dance to what is available, what part of the painting you can do, because that's the drier part of the painting. Okay, I'm not going to put any more rocks in mine for right now. I may want a few more, and I can put a few more in it later. But what I am going to do is back with that shadow color. That's ultramarine blue and a little bit of one of the two browns. I'm currently using, ooh, too much burnt sienna. Do you see how red that went? So I'm going to take some of that red out of there and put a little blue back in there. And I don't want it to be real dark, but I do want it to make a difference. So if you look on the right side of this, sticking up here, this area right there is a shadow. This area right here is a shadow. And again, to be able to do that, I'm holding my hand. So my hand is up so I can hold the brush a little bit further back. And that makes it possible to put in these shadows and keep it fairly tight. Or if you just have a small brush, you can do it with that. This piece of wall here has a shadow in it. This piece of wall here, this is a touchy one. See this? I'm putting a little bit there, but I'm leaving a light streak in there because the sun is coming this direction. So that little piece of wall has sunshine on it, but this is dark. It has in the shade. This is in the shade. And I'm making mine a little bit darker than yours needs to be, so you can see it well. And remember, this, see this front wall, how I left that light and I came down here with the shadow? This wall is getting sunlight on it. That little piece is getting sunlight on it. Okay? Can everybody see that? I'll leave it up there for a minute so you can study the shadows. On the fence, on this one, I went ahead and made the whole fence in shadow, but I think with this new one, I'm going to just come over and put shadow over here like this. Leave a little bit of the fence with sunlight hitting it. See that? Then this piece has a little bit of shadow in it. It comes right down here and meets this one. And we have a little shadow going on over here. And what I did here was I came out a little bit this way, as though the shadow was going sideways, because it would be not only on this wall, a little bit of it might be over here. Put a little movement in my tree here. It's cold here, so I think Sherry and I are both sniffling.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What else can we do here? Oh, there's a little bit of brick wall down here that I didn't put any bricks in. So I can put a brick there and a brick there. And in truth, I got a little too much green here. The brick wall is showing there's a shadow right there that you can put on the. I didn't put it in here either, but I could have put a shadow right there. And let's put a few more bricks in there. And I'm going to plop one up here and another one here. I think I've about got too many bricks, to tell you the truth. Yes, where you guys, at least if you're at Raymond G, I don't know who else might be watching, but at Raymond G, you're probably, these classes, we could have a lot of people, other people that are not commenting or whatever, because it's a 55 and over class. And eventually there'll be people from all over on it. But the point is, I know it's probably in the 90s there at Raymond G, and here where Sherry and I are sitting with the door open, it's 62 degrees. Which I just love. Really like that. I think I might at some later time come back and put a little bit of pencil in here, just to give it some I kind of like this one with the pencil in it, and of course I would love it if it had my fountain pen in it, but currently I'm doing them with pencil on this one, but I think that a little pencil around some of the rocks might make it have a little bit more, not only definition, but a little more interest is what I'm after. Also, this roof is not giving me, I'm not feeling it here on this roof. So I'm going to put a little more interest in the roof there. And maybe I'm going to darken right up here. And another thing, if your shadow is dry, a lot of times right where the walls connect, you have a little bit of a shadow, darker shadow. So you can put a little something in like that. And this one I'm going to show you right here on the left side, if it's dry and if you didn't get enough definition, a lot of times that wall that's in shade right there is either darker or lighter than the inside of the window. And in truth, there's windows in this, but like I say, it's too small, I think, to put those in. I'm still not liking this roof. It's a little too light for me. I'm liking my original better. Mhm. So I think I'm going to darken that roof up just a little bit. Well, folks, we're close to out of time. Hope you got a little something out of that. Try it again at home. Go watch the video. It's at Michael Spader 7-10 if you want to see it again. It'll be up on YouTube. And if you get a chance, read some Robinson Jeffers. Here's just one of his. I purchased this in the gift shop at his home. Robinson Jeffers, I will give you a piece of advice. Don't read the poem I can't remember the name of it, but it's something about a horse. It's just so dark. I can't, since I read the poem a year ago, I cannot get the image out of my mind. It just is too difficult, uh,
Too difficult to know.
yep, too hard for me. There. All right. Thanks for coming. We have about 4 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Appreciate you coming. Hope to see you again next time. Be sure and wave, right? And leave comments. Let me know how we can improve the class. What are your ideas? I love to hear from folks. And if you get a chance to watch it on YouTube, uh, comment. Comment something as simple as you did or did not like the class. Better hope I don't see you in person. Oh, you can be truthful. I appreciate it. All right, folks. Have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday, and think we'll be in Oregon by the time I see you again. Take care, enjoy, and thanks for coming. Stay safe, stay happy, keep sketching. Bye.